Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about directors, the men and women who mold and shape some of the films that we hold most dear, films that make us laugh, films that make us cry, and sometimes they just say things that piss us off. Now over the past week we've had some comments come out from two well-known directors, up-and-coming rising star Jordan Peele, who you know from Get Out, and his recent smash hit Us, and Zack Snyder, of course, who, however you may feel about Zack's films, is a seasoned director himself. Now, the two topics for discussion here are, of course, drastically different, and I'm sure some may feel one requires a much more serious discussion than the other, right? Yeah. But that's enough about Batman, though, right? First and foremost, Jordan's comments. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Peele expressed that he doesn't see himself casting a white male lead in any of his films anytime soon. And of course, some persons found this to be somewhat offensive. Now, before jumping in, I will recommend that anyone who has not yet done so to try to find the full article for the interview that was done, or some audio clip or another, just to give some context. Oftentimes we do see a headline or a snippet from an interview, however we don't have any context on which the comments were actually made, right? Now, as for my thoughts on Peele's comments, I do believe, given the opportunity to expound on what he said, he would have, and it's something along the lines that over the past 70 years of filmmaking in Hollywood, or longer, the majority of films being released had a white male lead, leading the leading role, right? And over a number of directors over the years themselves, while not outrightly saying it, I believe Woody Allen himself in an interview several years ago did in fact say he doesn't see himself casting a black male lead, right? And he did go on to say that his reason for not doing that would be he doesn't want to make it a diversity hire or a token hire. He would hire the person who is best suited for the role. Now, the problem, of course, being that there were no roles being created for African Americans or persons or any minority for that matter, right? And of course, we can't hold Woody Allen responsible for the shortfallings of Hollywood itself. He's just one director, of course, but all it takes is one to really make a difference, right? And I do suspect that is what Peele is attempting to do here. He is merely saying what Hollywood has been doing for years. Now, they may not say explicitly that we will not cast a black male lead, but they didn't cast a black male lead, right? And Peele himself acknowledges that he is now in a position where he can create opportunities for persons who would not otherwise have these roles that Woody Allen spoke of before. He realizes that these roles were not going to be created, and someone needs to step up and do it. Now, directors, producers have had numerous opportunities over the years to make something like this to happen, but you know and I know that it comes down to the bottom line, and where they don't feel, at the end of the day, Hollywood is in fact a business, and where they don't feel as though these films are going to be profitable, they will not greenlight a film with a minority lead. Of course, the social and economic climate in the U.S. has not changed, and studios are now seeing where these films can be profitable, and now we're seeing a lot of films being greenlit for production. And Jordan Peele is just going to be the first of many, I believe, and I sincerely hope, and we will see many more in the future. Now, one of the takeaways from the reaction to these comments, of course, is I think is an opportunity for open dialogue, right? I happened to have a discussion with someone who's not black, right? And what they expressed to me was that, hey, I am a huge fan of Jordan Peele himself. All his sketches prior to his introduction into the horror films, and what happens if I want to audition for one of his films? What happens if I want to be in his movie? Does it mean that I'm automatically disqualified? And if that's the case, is this not the very same thing that he is attempting to prevent? I mean, it's not something that I did initially think about. So I was very grateful that person actually came forth and actually said what they said. And I mean, it's a valid point. It certainly is a valid point. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge, and for the most part, they did agree with me on this as well. We have to acknowledge that it is not, we're not in a situation where it's equal opportunity, right? A white male walks into an audition and he, for whatever reason, may not get it. There are 50 or 60 more similar roles that will be coming down the pipeline. The same cannot be said true for a black male coming into audition for a lead. It may very well be these movies are few and far apart, right? In the ideal world where we get to a point where the playing field is a bit more even, right? And it's again, it's equal opportunity for all. Then in that situation, I can see where something like this would be frowned upon, and I would certainly question it if that was the case. But where we are now, in the time where we are now, there's just still a lot of work left to be done, right? But we are in the right place, I believe, where we can have open discussion on topics like this, and we can all work together to get towards that that ideal world. Now on to a much happier note, at least for some. Zack Snyder, who is of course no stranger to controversy, over the past week or so, at a press screening for Director's Cut, was asked by one of the fans there what led to his decision to have Batman kill. Now, his response, and again I will say, I do believe Snyder could have phrased his response differently given the audience, but and I will be paraphrasing here, he basically said that these fans who feel as though they're larger-than-life characters who have this moral code that they will absolutely not kill, that these fans are living in a effing fantasy world, right? And they need to wake the F up. No, again, could have been phrased differently, right? In terms of what he has done with the character himself, I will say Batman is my favorite character of all time since the Batman animated series, and to date still remains so. And while Zack's depiction of the character is a very drastic deviation from what we know the character to be, I don't feel as though it was done needlessly, right? Now, while I'm an avid fan of the original Batman and the morals that he had, the code that he had, I am still very open to see new ways in which this character can be tested. All right, and up to this point, I don't believe we've gotten a Batman who has worn the cowl for over 20 years. We've had throughout the numerous films that we've had, the animated films. In the comics, there've been the Dark Knight, of course, but for the most part, he's been either Bruce Wayne starting out as Batman, or just a few years wearing the cowl. Now, in Snyder's universe here, and in Snyder's universe, we have a Batman who has been who's been tried, who's been tested for several years. He has lost so much, and I don't feel, or perhaps it's a situation where we didn't feel the gravity of the loss that he has felt. We did see the Robin suit. I don't know whether or not that wasn't conveyed to the audience enough to convince them that, all right, he lost Robin, but he lost so much more than that. And we had numerous conversations between Bruce and Alfred, where Alfred addresses the things that the loss that he has gone through, and how he has changed, how that has changed him, and how good men become cruel, right? It was literally in, I think, the second trailer for BVS. Those lines, and those lines did resonate with me, and I remember them because of it, right? So I think the film did attempt to convey to the audience that, okay, this is a Batman who's beaten, he's been broken, right? He's been fighting crime. He sacrificed so much, but to no avail. And Bruce himself says in BVS, and says to Alfred, how many good guys are left, right? After all the sacrifice, how many good guys are left after all these years? And so while I still hold dear the Batman of old, right, that I grew up with, that I know, Batman himself, I've always understood to be a flawed character, right? And if you think about it, in at his darkest moments, right? If we strip all that away, his notion to not kill, isn't in and of itself is very flawed, right? He says that if you kill a killer, the number of murderers in the world is increased by 1. But that's not the case if you're eliminating 5 and 10 guys. Then that number will shrink, right? So his philosophy has always been very flawed. He's always been a flawed character to me. And so with that in mind, I am open to accepting that there can be some circumstances, and DC is known for their multiverses. I am open to the fact that there may be one multiverse where Bruce Wayne himself breaks after going through years and years of loss of fighting crime, and he's beaten and broken to the point where he's lost. He no longer believes in what he started to fight for, right? And I believe that is the Dark Knight that Snyder was attempting to convey to us. A Bruce that has been fighting for 20 years, a Bruce that has gone through loss, a Bruce that has lost hope. And I watching BVS, I felt that this was his redemption story. This was his redemption arc. For some, Batman v Superman, for many, seemed to, or they felt as though it was a film about Superman, and that was not my takeaway from it. All right, Superman was just starting out, true, and it was just finding his place on Earth. But at the same time, he was there to give hope, not just to everyone else, but also to Bruce, to Batman as well, and to remind him of what it means to be good, right? So I don't wholeheartedly agree with a lot of the backlash from Snyder's comments. Yes, I do say he and I maintain that. I do believe he could have and should have phrased his comments differently, but perhaps he felt as though those persons in the audience, and from what I understand, a lot of the persons in the audience understood where he was coming from and didn't particularly find his comments to be offensive. It's just those reporting the actual news itself, and with the flashy headline, Zack Snyder tells fans this, and I think this story and even Peele's it brings about a wider conversation, right? Or it should, at the very least. One where we are at a point where it's one extreme or another, where we can't like something and criticize it at the same time. You know, I can like Snyder's films and still criticize some of his decisions. It doesn't have to be I like him or I hate him and I hate everything that he has done, right? And we're at the point where we just see a flashy headline, usually a negative one, and we're not inclined to do any sort of fact checking or even to do the basic and read the very article itself. It's just a headline, and then we take it and we run it, and we want to be the first to post this comment, and because we'll get a lot of likes for that comment, right? And we'll spark a conversation. So, do I agree with how Snyder phrased his comments? No, but I do understand what he was trying to say, the character that he was attempting to create. If you don't, that is also fine as well. There are numerous versions of the character, whether TV, comics, or animation, that still embodies the character that you know, and no one is taking that away from you. That is still there. Right, that is all for today. Be sure to post down in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you agree with Snyder's comments? Do you feel Jordan Peele is making the right decision? If not, post down below. Let me know. Be sure to hit like or subscribe, and I'll see you next time.